Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today on the Man Blitz. I'd just like to take a moment to remind you to follow us on Twitter at Man Blitz. Visit us at www.3manblitz.com. You can listen to us on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast, Breaker, and don't forget to view us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit the like button. Thanks guys. Hey everybody, and welcome into the Man Blitz. Have we got a show for you today, guys? So there's been a lot of talk, a lot of action around the college football world, really, and some of it's confusing. There's been a lot of moving pieces, so we're going to kind of try to break it down and analyze all of this for you. We have all the information that we could gather, so really we're going to give it our best shot. But college football, as we've known it in the past, is not going to be this year. It's going to be something entirely new, something entirely different. But I guess we'll go ahead and pop a cold one to college football season. I'm Andrew, and over here I have Kwesi and Jeremy with me. So,
what's up?
To college football.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
What remains of it, anyway. So, We're going to start this off, I guess, with maybe we can start back and maybe kind of work our way forward down this timeline. So, this all started maybe a couple weeks ago when the Big Ten decided they were going to do conference-only play. And that kind of led to all of the other dominoes falling. And then you had teams like Notre Dame who weren't even part of a conference. They had to end up joining the ACC just for this season alone, as far as I can tell. Is that correct, Jeremy?
Yeah, that's correct from everything I've seen. They'll still retain their media conglomerate, basically, and they'll get all the money from that independently, and it'll just be for the season.
Yeah, because they have a TV contract. I think it was ABC.
It's a big one, too. Yeah. A lot of money.
Okay, so pretty much everybody goes to a in-conference 10-game schedule, and those teams were just announced not too long ago. I think it was actually this past week, who the additional teams were that they were going to be playing. And I know that as far as the conference that we've generally covered, the SEC, they've said their season's going to start September 26th. Am I correct?
Yes,
that was like the start date. Yep. September 26th. So, and I think the SEC championship is set to be December 19th. And I think that was the general Saturday that everybody was kind of shooting for as far as their championship day, because from what I could tell, the College Football Playoff Committee was set to decide on December 20th. Their final, the final rankings were supposed to come out that day like they do every year. So we move forward a little bit, and the Big Ten and the Pac-12, as of yesterday, August 12th, officially announced that they were not going to be having any fall sports, and this includes college football.
Boo.
So, guys, what are your thoughts on this?
I hate it. I mean, as just a fan, only thinking selfishly as a fan, I hate it. I can understand it, and a lot of it will come down to the word safety for the pandemic. But I think what it really comes down to is, they don't want to be held liable. These universities don't want to be held liable if their students get sick for something they could have prevented. I think that's the big word, is liability. I think it's illegal. I think it's more of a legal decision than it is safety, but they'll pass it off as safety. I hate it.
I understand that. So. I'm a Michigan fan. Of course, Big Ten backed out. I wanted them to play. As every Tennessee fan, this was our year. Okay, we was going to win it all, but I don't like it. I wanted them to play, definitely. I understand it, as Jeremy said. I understand it, definitely. But I am more disappointed in the totality of the NCAA committees, things like that, because we knew this date was coming up. If they would have lined something up, different options ahead of time, months ahead of time, weeks ahead of time, whatever it may be, it might have made it a smoother transition within the top 5 conferences to figure out some sort of thing that we can all work together to figure out something for themselves.
And I mean, before we really delve too deep into this, because there's a lot to dissect here, there's a lot of information I'm going to be throwing at you guys, and I'm going to also give my 2 cents on, I guess, if any of you care about that. But none of us, and we've discussed this amongst the three of us, none of us are so headstrong into having a football season that we would want to actually put players in danger. We're not a football at all costs group. That's not what we are. We're open to discussion. We're open to different opinions, and we move pretty fluidly as far as our thoughts go and the news that we receive. So you guys should kind of know that before we really get too deep. But I definitely agree with both of you on the point, Kwesi, that now more than ever, it's extremely apparent that maybe we need some sort of college football commissioner kind of at the head of it all to kind of head the Power 5 conferences. And I'm with you, Jeremy. I do think it's more of a legality standpoint. And kind of moving on what you're talking there about legality, kind of moving on from what you were saying, before all of this took place, yesterday, before these conferences actually canceled, in the days before, there was a big movement, the hashtag We Want to Play movement. It was started by Clemson quarterback Trevor Lawrence and kind of rippled out from there. And players from all over the nation were lighting up Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all over social media. Hey, we want to play this season. I mean, there were a few that weren't. Of course, there are a few that are going to opt out, but the majority of college football players were ready to go. This includes Justin Fields of Ohio State, whose season just got canceled, and a lot of these Big Ten guys and Pac-12 guys. But moving along with this We Want to Play movement, we kind of saw we saw the Pac-12 within the past month kind of trying to form some sort of players union, and it really got a push when all of this hit. And they have at least one representative from every Power 5 conference. And they sent out a graphic that kind of stated what they were looking for. It was kind of their mission statement. And I'm going to read it off to you guys real quick. It says, hashtag we are united, hashtag we want to play, representatives of ACC, Big Ten, Pac-12, SEC, and Big 12. We all want to play football this season. Establish universal mandated health and safety procedures and protocols to protect college athletes against COVID-19 among all conferences throughout the NCAA, which I think that's the part that maybe some of these conferences are having trouble with, accepting the responsibility.
Yep.
But moving forward, it says, give players the opportunity to opt out and respect their decision, which some players already have. We've seen the wide receiver Bateman from Minnesota. He was a huge, impactful player last season. He's completely opted out and decided to prepare for the NFL draft. And if that's his prerogative, that's fine. No disrespect to him at all. Guarantee eligibility whether a player chooses to play this season or not. Use our voices to establish open communication and trust between players and officials. Ultimately create a college football players association. Representatives of players of all Power 5 conferences. That's what the footnote at the bottom says that it's from. So what do you guys think about some of that information I've just kind of relayed to you?
I mean, yeah, I think basically it's probably not going to happen just like that. I think what really needs to happen first, maybe simultaneously, is something needs to happen about the NCAA as a whole. The whole organization of the NCAA has been a joke for as long as I've been a fan of football. And the way they've handled the entire situation has been garbage. I like the fact that the players are trying to form this. I don't know what kind of we were talking about legality. I don't know how that's going to play into it. But from what I've seen, they've already come out and said, the NCAA has already said that any player not wishing to play will still have another year of eligibility. It won't impact them at all. If their school, say Justin Fields, obviously Big Ten saying they're not going to play, possibly moving it to spring, maybe not even then, would still have another year of eligibility. But I don't really know. I haven't seen a whole lot about it, honestly. There's been so much information coming out daily, hourly about this. Any school that you follow, I'm not real sure what to follow at any given time.
Yeah.
Like I was watching the Big Ten, the Nebraska, that whole deal. I was watching that and seeing they were talking about leaving and, people talking about making super conferences. And I don't even know if that's possible, honestly. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that in just a minute. But, yeah, you're right. There's so much information. It's so much to digest and in such a small amount of time, too. And that's kind of why we're doing this episode, kind of spur of the moment. We've been talking about it a little bit back and forth, and we decided that it needed to be done. So, Kwesi, what do you think about this players' movement?
I mean, as Jeremy said, like the players having a union, maybe that might even help them get paid through the colleges. They maybe started pushing that. I do want them to have especially during this pandemic. Let me say that opting out, flexibility. If they want to transfer flexibility, they'll say play right away. I want them to have that. Now, their biggest hiccup is going to be having these colleges pay for their health care. That I don't see any colleges doing that. Because they barely want to give up a penny, period, anyway. So even when these guys unfortunately have huger incidents on field playing football, they don't want to pay for them. They take away the scholarship in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And no matter how small or big the injury is, the guy's been paralyzed, they'll put a flag on your chair and take away your scholarship. Things people don't think about when these guys get hurt. So again, I approve of them having a union, but just trying to see where it goes from there.
Yeah, and I mean, this may be something that evolves over the next few seasons, and maybe COVID was what really was needed to kind of kickstart it. Because this is another discussion that people have back and forth, and they'll argue about, will money ruin, the sanctity of college football? I mean, there's a right way to answer it, but I don't think there's really any wrong way to answer it, because you can have your different views and opinions, and I guess it depends on what you think of the sport of college football. Yeah. But I mean, money obviously wouldn't affect every athlete. You've got your small-time guys that are never going to go pro, and and we can act like it doesn't happen all day long, but we know a lot of these colleges are paying these players anyway.
Oh, definitely. That's 1,000%. Yes.
That's okay. Happening. So we've got Notre Dame. They joined the ACC. The Big Ten and Pac-12 decided to opt out of the season. And that same day, the SEC, ACC, and Big 12 decided to stand firm in their stance, saying, hey, we are going to move forward with a college football season. And I've got this note here from Greg Sankey, or this quote, SEC commissioner, and I'm going to throw this at you guys and kind of let you dissect it a little bit. And I quote, I look forward to learning more about the factors that led to the Big Ten and Pac-12 leadership to take these actions today. And that's him referring to them opting out. I remain comfortable with the thorough and deliberate approach that the SEC and our 14 members are taking to support a healthy environment for our student athletes. We will continue to further refine our policies and protocols for a safe return to sports as we monitor developments around COVID-19 in a continued effort to support, educate, and care for our student athletes every day.
I did think that it was, I don't want to say premature, but it did kind of. So what is the first week that we've got set out? September 26th?
September 26th.
26th.
As far as the SEC goes.
Right. So we were still pretty much a month out. For them to come out now and say that, and just go ahead and shut it all down, it just seemed odd, the timing. But then, you've got a really good point by Trevor Lawrence, who said that it's better to have the season and have all the football players there under the watch of the health people for the universities. You've got them structured. You give them testing daily. If you don't have that, you're going to have whatever the university has there, I guess, because they're still going to school. But then, they don't have as close an eye on them, I guess. I don't know. It just seems very weird, to me, to not have the season. Like, I understand it to a certain degree because if you don't have to have that close of contact with people, whatever. But if you test beforehand and it's negative, what's the real risk?
Well, essentially, it's almost like kind of the way I see it. Every college football program is essentially in their own bubble, kind of like what the NCAA is doing. Once you take all the time that these students are spending on the field and then the time they're taking preparing for the game and then, when they're in their dorm room, they're in a dorm room with another guy who is also tested 3 times a week, on your team. I mean, you've got 95 hours a week that you could spend pretty much anywhere else that you're spending within the bubble, kind of like what the NBA is doing, which is actually proven to be successful. So I definitely agree with you. I think it's definitely safer for these guys to be here with all these, all this medical staff, these trained medical staff, and you're at the school that's testing you, like I said, multiple times a week. You're in a bubble. I mean, what's safer? These guys being here at school or them going home to train at their local gym or running down the sidewalk with 5 other people? I mean, come on.
I understand all that. And again, I'm playing devil's advocate. And again, I 1,000% want some football right now. Bad. But I hear you speaking of a bubble. What did these schools say they're going to create a bubble?
No.
And
what I'm saying is their schedule essentially creates a bubble for them.
Because they would be there. But I mean, what I'm getting at, again, if a kid's at college, and then again, we're talking about 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. We have grown adults. And I know I love my NBA also. We have grown adults who left the bubble in the NBA and to go handle a situation. But he also went to a strip club too while he was out.
You gotta have fun while you're out.
Gotta get your party in.
Again, he's a grown man. We have grown men that got suspended for a game because he wanted to get some takeout food.
Right.
So we're getting grown men doing simple mistakes but we also talk about 17, 18-year-olds who were, in their hormones, who think they're untouchable. We just had a guy recently get cut by what team? In the NFL. The rookie got cut for something simple. He just did it. But we'll look that up. We'll talk about that. And also these guys, they're going to be on campus. They're going to be around their doctors, but they're also going to go to classes too.
Yep.
And there's going to be holidays where they want to go home or whatever it may be. But I do want football. So don't get me wrong. I do want football. So that's why I jump on the NCAA when they should have figured out some kind of plan. Nothing's 1,000%. Figure out some kind of plan to give all these schools to say, hey, maybe try to work it out this way or that way. When I was in college, majority of our football players stayed in one dorm. And so it made it easier in a sense. It was always there. But you could also narrow down their classes to what classes they go to. Maybe they're going to all be on virtual classes for 3 months. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. But this is something the NCAA could have put out there for these guys to do.
Well, let me throw this at you, and it may come as a surprise to some of our listeners, but while the Big Ten has opted out of playing games in the fall of 2020 due to COVID-19, they are still having in-person classes, and they are also keeping their football players engaged by having regularly scheduled practices week in and week out.
So what's the difference? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Literally the only thing being taken out of their schedule is playing the game.
Yeah, and that doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. If you're already practicing like that, the only difference obviously would be is now you're adding another team of people, but they're going to get tested beforehand. You already don't have any fans in the stands. You got the other, their coaches and personnel, so you're adding, I don't know how many people, it'd be 160 probably in total or something, probably less, that you get tested anyway, and then you go play. What is the difference? You're adding a few people, and you got to test them all anyway, and you're practicing, but you don't want to play the games. Again, it's all the legal issue. It's the only thing it is liability. Liability. That's it.
Well, let me ask you this. How does this move positively or negatively affect the view of the Big Ten or the Pac-12 as far as recruiting, maybe even as far as fan bases, as far as everything? What effects do you think this is going to have rippling into the future, or even that we may see just tomorrow?
Jay, I don't think it'll have any kind of effect. Most people like the school because they like the school, or most people like the schools because they want to stay closer to home, or they were a fan of theirs, or some of their family went to these certain schools, or they're going to have the opportunity to play at these certain schools. So people are still going to go to the Big Ten, these certain teams. Uh, Pac-12, they're still gonna go to these teams. I can't see them saying, "Well, man, they canceled that 1 year because of the COVID, so I'm not gonna go there." I can't see that.
Yeah, well, I could definitely. I don't think it'll have a huge impact. I don't, but I could see other coaches and recruiters definitely using it as some fire against these other two conferences. Say a guy's looking at Georgia and Michigan, just because you're a Georgia and Michigan fan, and the Georgia recruiter's there, and he said, "Look, man, Michigan, they opted out. They don't even want to play because it's just something that sounds good at the time anyway. It only puts a little bit to put it in that kid's head to be like, yeah, you know what? They didn't want to play, and you guys wanted to, and you're there. So I mean, kids are they can be swayed somewhat.
Yeah.
But you're right. To me, it can affect the recruiting process, but I don't think overall it would have a big effect. Now, immediately, maybe for this upcoming season, there may be more opportunity for some kids to flip. Maybe they're worried themselves that the school's too far away. Kwesi, to your point, maybe now they're like, you know what? I live in Kentucky. Maybe I ought to look more close to Kentucky instead of going to California.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Safety.
All right. Well, as far as the breakdown across the United States, as far as if we're breaking it down by state, you've got 15 states where all FBS schools are playing, 17 states where no FBS schools are playing, and then 9 states that are in between. And then, of course, you have 9 states with no FBS programs, but we're not worried about them. But the trend that you can see here kind of goes with the political flow. If you were to compare this map that I've got before me to a red-blue map, the green, as far as all schools are playing, would kind of line up with the red, and as far as the map that I've got anyway, and the no schools playing would kind of line up with the blue as far as voting Democrat and this and that. So I think a lot of it does have to do with culture. And so maybe as far as fans go, Pac-12 fans are saying, okay, well, we're still in quarantine most of the time. Most people aren't back at work. So why would we have college football? While here in Chattanooga, we're like, shoot, man, I go to the daggum old store, daggum, get me some beer, don't wear no mask, this and that. And of course, we're going to be like, that's Jeremy.
I don't say that. I don't say those things, and I don't say
we don't say that. We don't say that, but we all know these guys. But so around here, we're like, why would we not play college football? We've been back at work for 2 months now. What's the big deal? So I mean, as far as the fan bases go, I don't think you're going to see a lot of, oh man, I can't believe we're not playing football. But whenever we're looking at it, like you've got people here in Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, we're like, why are they not playing football? And I mean, so there's a little bit of a disconnect, and I kind of get that. It has to do with culture, has to do with society. But you guys got anything on that?
I got more. Just something that springs to mind is money as well. How could you not have a football season with all the money that it generates? So like the SEC brings in a lot of money, all these schools. So that's why you've got, so like you got a school like Stanford canceled all those sports, almost like a preemptive, like they saw the light and what was about to happen. And they were like, well, we can't afford it. And I just don't see how you don't have it. I mean, all the money that you're going to lose in these programs. I know they've got high hopes for it going into the spring, but.
And I am surprised and glad that you brought up the dynamics of political and how it matches up with the schools too, because I do see it that way also. And sometimes as Americans we can get spoiled and we kind of want what we want when we want what we want. It's just that. I'm not saying anything's wrong, but it's just almost in us, whatever it may be. Well, as we mentioned in our job, we can be at work and we can hear about certain cases of things, and we're like, 2 people, what? They haven't shut this place down yet? You know what I'm saying? We're ready to go. But you can hear about 8 kids getting, and again, I want football. But we can hear about 8 cases at college, and then college football will be like, throw in the backup. We're trying to go for a championship this year.
Yeah, right.
Because I'm basically in my mind, we're sacrificing somebody else, and then
Yeah.
that makes it easier. In philosophy, in psychology, you learn that kind of stuff. But I understand that, and I think it does match up with the cultural things that's going on right now, the dynamics, money wise, of course, because of places like Oklahoma is driven a lot between oil and football. A lot of other places, smaller places. So
Texas.
yeah,
Everywhere in Texas.
Texas.
you understand what I'm saying? So these smaller colleges need smaller cities, smaller states need these colleges to drive these certain things. So they definitely want that money. But
Yeah.
it's just sacrificing money and life in a sense. But again, there's zero right answer. We just try to do our best. But that's why again I say the NCAA should have stepped up and try to do something instead of nothing.
Yes.
I think
so you can't reiterate that enough. You really can't.
Yeah. It's a shining light that the NCAA, I said it earlier, and I'll probably say it 100 times, especially in private to you guys. The NCAA is a joke. The whole organization's a joke.
They have failed us this season.
God, who was it? One of the NFL guys, I wish I could remember off the top of my head, came out and said it in a tweet. He was like, okay, and it is different because you're talking about college and it's a ton more versus NFL, which is professionals, blah, blah, blah. But they set out a plan, they're following it, everything seems to be going relatively smoothly, and then they're looking over here at the college and they're like, you guys, what are you doing? All your conferences are kind of doing their own thing. You got your ADs arguing back and forth with one another about what they think and how things are going, and it just seems like there is no leadership. That's why you had a team like Nebraska looked at one point like they were going to be opting out of the Big Ten somehow, not of the season. They didn't agree and they wanted to play, so they were talking about playing independently, joining a different conference, which is not happening. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, I was about to roll there. In wake of the Big Ten announcing this, Nebraska did say that they sought to play football, and a lot of players from the Big Ten Conference still feel the same, and we may be seeing some transfers this season. I don't know. I'm still kind of eyeballing Twitter every couple hours or so, waiting to see that transfer portal light up, but it is yet to really take off. But Omaha.com reports seeking to stop a false narrative in its tracks Thursday. Top leaders at the University of Nebraska affirmed their commitment to the Big Ten. The Huskers don't have eyes for the Big 12 or anywhere else, which the Big 12 is where they came from 9 seasons ago. Yeah. But the door may still be open, a crack, for NU to pursue football games in the fall. And I think they only say that because they didn't necessarily address that in their statement reaffirming their commitment to the Big Ten. But they did say in an earlier statement, absolutely, we're still trying to play football in the fall. So I guess that's still kind of up in the air, but I don't really see it going anywhere, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think they would even go the hardcore straight to we're leaving. It's like screw the Big Ten. Because I doubt they have anything in place, and that's a scary place for a university to be. I would say more likely they'll come up with that type of statement, have backdoor conversations with anybody that will listen and try to do backdoor deals, and then that's a possibility. Then once something's concrete where they have a couple of those handshakes in place and some contracts, that you can't technically sign until you're gone, and then you leave and then you sign. But even then, I think that's a long shot because they'd have to do it really quickly. And then whoever they went to, they'd have to be into the schedule. So more than likely, I would say it's upwards 90 some odd %. They stay Big Ten. They don't play football this year.
Well, I will say I do know that as of yesterday, the Big 12 did say that they would take Nebraska back with open arms. So the possibility's still there, but I don't think it'll happen. What you got, Kwesi?
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen. I think they'll kind of see where they're at. I think they would need more time to make that decision, and time is not what they have right now. So I think they'll stay where they're at least for this season.
Well, speaking on conferences and their indecision, I guess, I'm going to read you some quotes from some medical professionals from these different conferences. Big Ten, and the quote is, "The medical people said it was unequivocal we could not play this fall." Pac-12. "Doctors say to stop contact and competitive activities at this time." ACC. "Doctors say We have learned enough over the past 6 months to manage the risk. SEC, doctors say we can continue to go forward and hopefully play football this fall. How is there such a disconnect between medical professionals? I can understand commissioners and athletic directors and conferences arguing and, throwing shade at each other and going back and forth, but medical professionals, are they literally just, are these quotes just what they're paying these doctors to say?
Pretty much. I think that most of it's opinion-based. It's opinion anyway. Most of it's not fact. And, they're just throwing out their own opinions on the situation. Everybody's vastly different on their own opinions of it. And I would look more towards the players. The players have all the risk. And the players that want to play, let them play. If they have any of the symptoms, if they have a fever, they don't play. You know what I mean? You test them. They get quarantined. They can still do their classes virtually, blah, blah, blah. Like, the ones that are saying that we know what the risk is and we know the procedures to take, basically, they're correct. We've been doing it. We're being more responsible. They're being more responsible. You're wearing the mask, blah, 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 blah. You're taking the tests. So I know that other people are worried. So you always have the risk takers versus the people that are wanting to shut themselves in and hide away. And that might be a skewed view of what they are. But
right.
I just, to me, that's the way it seems. And, yeah, if you didn't have to have the physical contact, maybe that's the smarter way. And to them, that's what they think. If you don't have to have physical contact with another person, why would you do it? That's their viewpoint. And they're not wrong. It's just a mitigated risk. You have a risk when you go to Walmart because some dude's not wearing a mask over there and he is infected and he didn't know it. He sneezed. It whatever. That's how it goes. Yeah. It goes into your mask crack and you were breathing.
Your mask crack.
Yeah, your mask crack and you were over there by the flowers smelling or something. And next thing you know, you got COVID. I mean, you know how it goes.
So the moral is don't smell flowers at Walmart.
No, don't smell nothing. I would have nose plugs in and shallow breaths. Don't do that. You'll pass out.
Kwesi, go ahead, man. This man's wild.
He said mask crack, okay? Mask.
Mask.
Guys like it.
A-S-K. Crack.
You guys liked it.
I'm
wearing a mask right now.
But as you're saying, we kind of know what we need to do to control these things. As we're saying that, we're also seeing in America that people aren't doing that. And
Sure.
and that's the crazy dichotomy that's out there where you think because again, nothing's 1,000%. You think but not everybody's doing that. So we even have places in Georgia and also Florida where they're banning even wearing masks. How's that helping out the situation?
Well, they're banning wearing of masks?
Yes, bro.
Oh, that's weird.
But that goes back to that same thing we were talking about, whereas this map that I was looking at on states that are and are not playing college football, it flows with political views and everything.
So you see what I'm saying? That
does.
That's like you got to repeat that. They're banning it. Yeah, that's how crazy it is. I'm going to push this in a sense upon whatever you may believe, I guess, in a sense, but not everybody's going to be on the same page, unfortunately, and that just hurts the kids. It hurt their chances. When again, it should have been taken care of a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. I've got a very basic way of looking at it. So, you have risks in life no matter what. Say you're a football guy, right? You're a football player. You're in college. You go out with your friends. You're at a party. Some girl comes up to you. Me and Kwesi have talked about this like a million times and how dumb some players can be at times, but they're kids. And they hook up with some girl, blah blah blah. She says he raped her, even though he didn't. That's a huge risk on his part. You're walking across the street late at night, people are drunk right next to a bar, you get hit by a car. There's 1,000 risks that you're going to take all the time. Yeah. If they're willing to take the risk of getting a disease, an illness that doesn't necessarily negatively affect someone of their age who's very healthy, not for death, if you go by the numbers, it could. But I don't know. It's risk. Risk is a part of life.
Yeah.
Well, and I know that I got a few more things to throw you guys before we're done. There's been a heart virus that has supposedly been linked to the coronavirus or a heart infection. I'm not sure exactly what they were calling it, but this has been cited as part of the reason. It's a very, very rare situation to get this after the infection, but it's not just coronavirus that gives you this heart infection or this heart disease. It's basically after any virus you contract, there is a small, very, very small chance that you could actually contract this heart disease. So it's not linked specifically to coronavirus, but it's being cited as a lot of the reason as why athletes shouldn't play.
And I think that's silly. I'm only saying that again, it's silly because if my heart was going to be okay, but yet my lungs were going to shut down,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it don't matter.
It doesn't matter whether you say it's a heart or my big toe. If it ends up being me dying or being in a very bad situation, no. So I don't know. Throwing out the heart thing doesn't all of a sudden factor whether I'm going to play football or not.
Right. Yeah. And let's look at it. Is there a risk that you can contract COVID-19 with playing football? Yes. Is there a chance that you can contract it not playing football? Yes.
Yeah.
So
and maybe even more so because, like I was saying earlier, you're going to be out of your college's, air quotes here, bubble, to where you're spending 80 hours a week preparing for a game, as far as practice goes, as far as game prep goes, as far as you're in the dorm with another guy who's on the football team, being tested 3 times a week. All those things are taken out, and you're given more free time. Yeah, you may be more at risk not playing football, as Trevor Lawrence kind of pointed out. But moving on.
Give me 2 seconds. Let me throw this out, because me and Jeremy discussed money before with the NCAA and how the money flows through the colleges and things like that. I guess there's be a risk of schools, especially I'm talking about the top 5 conferences of bigger colleges. There's always going to be a risk of flying. Now, these guys can charter flights to wherever they got to go to. Mm-hmm. So they can take money from, again, I don't want to count anybody's pockets or take money from anybody's pockets. But these coaches get paid in the billions of dollars.
Billions.
Billions. You see what I'm saying? And also, if your city, your town, whatever that college is at, rallies behind you, and the fans pay to charter a flight for that game, it's not going to be many games. Charter a flight for those flights so you can see your team play, so they can be on the plane alone. That's going to help their risk of contracting it within that situation.
I think I did see where some universities were talking about. I don't know if they actually have done it. I think they're in talks of reducing coaching salary because of the financial hit that they're going to be taking as a university.
But I don't want to take away anybody's money. But if you're going to take it away and put it towards something for the safety of all of them, yeah. But just to take it away just so the college can keep the lights on, no, because you're going to have your lights on anyway.
And some coaches get paid a lot. Sometimes.
Even your point, talking about communities rallying together to pay for a charter. Don't think for a minute that I wouldn't take money out of my own pocket to donate to the University of Georgia so that those players could fly somewhere safely, because I would. I care about the guys on my squad just like all of us do, And I'd be willing to chip in a little bit of money to help take care of those guys and make sure that they're safe and not contracting this disease.
Yeah. So I'm on both sides. So I could see them doing something like that, but at the same time, I would be the person yeah, y'all are going to lose money, but you're still making a ton of money.
Exactly. Now, check this out.
I don't need my $5.
This is going to end this discussion right here. What's that Alabama coach, Nick Saban?
Nick Saban. Yeah.
They paid off his house.
Yeah, boosters. Boosters are the ones that could definitely front some of this money.
Mm-hmm. Paid off his house.
Yeah, and his cars. Probably pay for his meals, pay for his diaper changes.
Take care of these kids, man. Period.
Exactly.
Well, moving on, keeping it news related as far as the coronavirus goes. The the Big Ten commissioner, I've got a quote from him whenever he actually canceled the season. I'm going to read it off to you guys and let you guys kind of dissect it a little bit. There's too much uncertainty, even questions we ask and still ask. It doesn't mean we're giving up forever. It's an evolution. We look forward to the future. There's so much uncertainty. As we asked questions 2 weeks ago, some questions were answered and some weren't. Across the country, there's too much uncertainty about the virus. Cases are spiking, deaths, not only in our country, but our states where our schools are located. What? That doesn't make sense. All the decisions we make during my tenure here in the Big Ten will always put our student athletes in the center. We believe collectively there's too much uncertainty at this point and time to encourage our athletes to participate in fall sports. These are not professionals. They are amateurs and should participate in a healthy and safe manner. End quote.
So, in other words, just what we've been saying. Liability issue with the mask of player safety. That's it.
Yeah.
And I know that they're worried about – everybody's worried about it to a certain degree, right? Yeah. But it's a liability thing. They are worried. And, yeah, either the virus is evolving or we're just finding out more about it. We just don't know. The vaccine, blah, 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 blah. But
yeah. They should have them sign some kind of waiver if they wanted to. Especially,
that's what the players' representatives were asking for in that quote that I read you earlier.
Okay.
They want to play. So look. Okay, so Trey Smith, a Tennessee guy, he's a highly projected first-round left guard. He has blood clots in his lungs, so he has a pre-existing health condition. He is at a higher risk. He is a higher risk person for coronavirus. He came out on Twitter, said, "Let's go. I will be highly upset if I don't have my opportunity to, go and do what I've been working so hard for." He wants to play. He came back. He could easily be in the NFL right now because he came back. He might not have been a first-round pick, but he'd have been pretty high pick. So, there's a lot of those instances. They want to play. Even him, and he has a pre-existing health condition. He's not too worried about. Now, granted, they are kids. They don't maybe think about the risks as much as more seasoned people do, but they also aren't as affected by it. So let them play, man. That's to me. It's still, if they want to play, let them play. If all the players were saying, if it was the opposite, and the players were saying, I don't feel like it's worth the risk. I don't want to play. I think it's BS that the college football is still going on, and they all rose up in the opposite way and said, let's not play, and it was an overwhelming majority. Hey, man, what are you gonna do? Who am I?
Listen. You have to listen to the players.
Who would I be as a fan? At that point, I'd have to look and say, I want football, but if they don't want to play it, I mean, what are we going to do?
Respect their decisions.
Right. But
they are the ones directly impacted. You have to respect what they're saying.
Right, and they're saying we want to play. So that's where my stance is. That's where it's going to stay. Unless something crazy happens, that's where it's going to stay.
Until if they want to play, change their stance.
Yep. Yeah. Back the players. That's what it should be for fans. And maybe that's a new movement. Back the players.
There is a hashtag let them play movement.
Let them play. I mean, let them play.
Kwesi, what you got, my friend?
Hey, if they want to play, let them play. Well, again, I think they should probably sign a waiver or whatever they got to do. But,
sign a waiver.
Agreed.
Well, I've got two more things here for you guys, kind of wrapping up the more recent news. And I've got a couple of quotes to leave you with to kind of let you think about, kind of let it simmer. But the first thing, as far as the most recent news goes, and this was from today, because the NCAA does not operate the college football playoff, it remains possible the college football playoff could proceed forward with its regularly scheduled playoff if the ACC, Big 12, and SEC stick to their current plans to play football this fall. The College Football Playoff Selection Committee announced Thursday, which is today, the day we're recording, that it is still preparing for a playoff this year, despite the Big Ten and Pac-12's decisions to postpone their fall sports seasons to the spring. What do you guys have to say on this?
The only thing I got to say is, how is the NCAA not over the playoffs? That don't make sense.
It's not. College football playoff is a separate entity. But the NCAA did come out today or yesterday and cancel all all championships. All fall sport championships.
It's all money, buddy. That's why. The football is separate because it generates so much money. And that's why I hate the NCAA as a whole, because if you go start looking at anything with them and money-wise, and you go down the rabbit hole, it leads to a million other questions, a million other avenues. who knows where all that money actually goes? Somebody's pockets, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not
But
the
hey,
students.
we've been saying it for a long time. If there's any football, yeah, they're going to have some kind of college football playoff because it generates just a ton of money just from the television deals that it's going to be on. It's going to be enough.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the same for the attendance. I mean, they'll lose out on a lot, but
I mean, it's like the Super Bowl.
Plus.
It's like one of the most watched events of the year.
Exactly.
And it's owned by NFL.
Yeah. Again, I don't know where all that money goes. I don't know.
But anyway, I mean,
that's
some good news to kind of end this with. We kind of needed a high note in between the tug of war, this and that. There's going to be some football as far as right now. The SEC and all these other conferences, I'm sure, are still moving fluidly. So they're saying, but plans are to move forward. So we're still going to have something. That's great. A lot of these players are still going to get to play. That's great. The ones that don't want to don't have to. That's great. There's some good stuff to take out of this because this is a very confusing and almost angering time. You just kind of get mad, like Kwesi. I've been feeling you this whole episode, this whole show, being mad at the NCAA. Why? What? You could have prevented all of this. You could have set some standards. We need a college football commissioner. I'll say it again. But I'm going to leave you guys with a couple of quotes from last year's championship team, and one's from Ed Orgeron, and one is from Joe Burrow. I'm sorry.
Can I guess the Ed Orgeron one?
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. There's homies that want you on your play football championship now. Go Tigers.
I mean, we need to give credit to whoever. We need to give credit to whoever actually deciphered this and made it legible. But Ed Orgeron, I guess this is from his heart. Let me read it here. Joe Burrow last year was a 6th-round pick going into the season, and he ended up being the first pick. We've got to give our players this opportunity if it's safe for them. They deserve it. Our fans deserve it. Our country deserves it. And the last thing I'm going to leave you guys with was a quote from Joe Burrow. I feel for all college athletes right now. I hope their voices are heard by the decision makers. If this happened a year ago, I may be looking for a job right now.
Sure.
But I think it's going to be more like a situation like the MLB is going through right now where games are going pretty good, but they've had a couple breakouts. You see what I'm saying? And they had to postpone some games and things like that. So if they can keep it on that level, that's great, I guess. That's a good thing. That's the best I can see out of the NCAA.
We're going to have to put our faith in the conferences because the NCAA isn't going to do anything for us.
No, they don't want any of the liability.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as they keep testing and they keep doing the health protocols, I mean, as much as you can keep an eye on, like you were talking about, Kwesi, 19, 20-year-olds. I mean, the good thing is they'll have tests, a few tests, several hours up until game time. Yeah. If they start popping positives, obviously they just won't play, some of them. And it will be very fluid. And we do have a month and a couple of days to see how it all plays out, and hopefully we've got some football.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll keep you guys updated best we can. As far as we know, the NFL is moving forward full speed, so that's good news.
It's a good sign.
That's something to keep us entertained, and we're going to keep our eyes best we can on this college football debacle and keep you up to date with any information that we come with. Follow us on Twitter at 3Man Blitz. We'll hit you up with information as it drops. We've got the best sources, so stick with us. We'll take care of you.
That's right.
And this was a bittersweet episode, guys, but it had to be done.
That's right. That was good.
Very good, man.
All right. Go for 3.
Go for 3.
Very baby.